one phrase that I think is extremely significant in our lives that's easy to lose track of. If I were to guess, I probably learned what it meant when I was like 7 or 8 is moral of the story. And if I look up moral here on Google as a noun, it says a lesson, especially one concerning what is right or prudent that can be derived from a story, a piece of information, or an experience. Similar, a lesson, message, meaning, significance. And I think what's so fascinating about life to me, to get deep here for a moment, is how something so simple as the question, so what's the moral of the story for life? Like, should, in my opinion, maybe should is the wrong word, but I am deeply suspicious of the claim uh, that there is nothing more concrete to the moral of the story other than like survival or some other kind of like cynical view that like, oh, it's like propagation of DNA or evolution. um Not to say, I mean, obviously those things are happening, right? But I'm talking about like the layer beneath that. And I think for a long time, um, like basically when I was in high school at one point, I got kind of convinced that like that there didn't have to be a moral to the story, that the story could not have a moral, so to say, and that like you have to just accept that and be fine with that. I think that that's misleading because I think what ultimately happens is it's difficult to trace down, but when you decide something like that on something so foundational, it will seep into every aspect of your life, in my experience, where it will color everything. Like, if on some level life is meaningless and there's no point, um, it begs the question why anything would be meaningful. Like, it's a self-defeating argument to try to argue that you can have a meaningful life in a world or reality that is meaningless or has no moral to the story. So I think that there is a moral to the story. I think that there are many morals to the story. But that is where then I would pose the question to the viewer rather than share, or like rather than even share, like kind of dictate or sway or determine what the moral of the story is in this video. I think it is worth considering for yourself. If somebody were to ask you to take a piece of paper right now and write down what is the moral of the story to life, what would you write?